out there, and this is Business and Economy, where we focus on the global economy, including that of Nigeria, the economic policies of the government and its performance. I am ILE EMEJE. It is no longer news that the global economic downturn is taking toll on countries of the world, including that of Nigeria. Here in the country, a lot of citizens have expressed concern on the economic situation, especially the general prices of goods and services, while calling for government support, particularly in the area of ensuring that the implementation of an effective price system is in place and a more people-friendly policies. In this edition of your program, economic analyst Mr. Olakpade is joining us immediately after the business news to discuss the performance of the government in the face of the global economic downturn and the way forward. We'll be right back.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Equity investors from the Nigerian capital market traded in a total volume of 316.4 million stocks at the last session, worth 7.7 billion naira in 7,852 deals. C and I Leasing led the top advancers with a profit of 9.9%, followed by Cavitin and Chems, appreciating with 7.69% and 7.14%. Meanwhile, Skyway Aviation Handling Company was top on the decliners, losing 9.80%, followed by NEM Insurance and Tantalizers, depreciating with 9.47% and 9.26%. In the course of transaction, United Bank for Africa was the most traded stocks, contributing in 50.3 million stocks, while Guaranteed Trust Holding Company and Zenith Bank traded in 38.5 million stocks and 28.9 million stocks in that order. During the session, all share index and market capitalization of listed equities surged by 0.15% to close at 97,978 units and 55.4 trillion naira. And on the exchange rate, the naira sells for 1,485 naira to the dollar, 1,144 naira to the pound sterling, and 1,766 naira to the euro. ILE EMEJE, ASO Television News.
Edition of your regular program, Business and Economy, and our guest and economic analyst Mr. Abraham Olakpade is here, and he'll be taking a look at the performance of the government at all levels, the challenges, and the way forward. Mr. Olakpade, you are welcome to the program.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
All right. From the introduction, I want to ask you, what is your own assessment of the performance, the economic performance generally, say in the last 1 year?
Well, you know, it's a potpourri. It's a mixed bag. It's a mixed feelings. So depending on the angle you're looking at it.
No, we've seen a lot of reforms. Let's say the last 1 year, we've seen a lot of reforms, a lot of retooling, a lot of remodeling, a lot of policy change, and a lot of confusion up and down. We've seen many things. Yes, confusion, yes. We've seen many things going forward and back. We've seen policy somersault. We've seen new direction. We've seen new propagandas. We've seen new policies. So it's a mixed bag. So it depends on how we see it, because the way the government is seeing it is different from the way the citizens, the people are seeing it, is different from the way analysts are seeing it. But we as analysts, we just have to look at the two sides of the coin. So maybe I should just start with the government's perspective first. So the government is talking about rebasing the Nigerian economy, retooling the Nigerian economy so that it can deliver for all. We need to go through reforms and make a lot of changes, a lot of policy direction, so that at the long run it's going to deliver for all. So subsidy removal on fuel, that was the beginning of that. They had to say, okay, we have to remove the subsidy because we need more revenue to do other things. So, and what the subsidy on PMS is dropping is too much. So let's remove it so that we free up some fund to be able to do other things for more capital projects. So that was why they started on that, with that foot. They started on that foot of removing the fuel subsidy. So immediately after that, they followed it with flotation, which their main aim of floating the naira. People don't really understand many things. The government's target was not to bring down the exchange rate. The government's focus now was to unify the exchange rate, to make sure the gap between the black market and the official rate, to make sure the gap is not much, so that it is going to discourage round tripping. So that was the target of the government to, let's float the naira. That was the main target. That's the primary reason, was to eliminate round tripping, discourage round tripping. But they also now, the secondary was, okay, if we float and there is no room again for round tripping, in the long run it's going to bring down the exchange rate. Because once we remove the corruption from it, which is, they believe majorly it was round tripping, it's going to discourage round tripping, since there's no, since the price of the official and the black market is the same thing, or the difference is negligible. So there's no need for anybody hoarding or people going to the CBN and doing all those shady deals. So that was why they removed it. That was why they floated the naira. And they believe that in the long run it's going to encourage more foreign direct investment, but it's not, it wasn't so at the end of the day. So we've seen a lot of tax reform, but they've not come out with a comprehensive tax direction. It's still, the work is still going on. The one they tried to introduce based on electronic cyber security, there was too much protest. They had to go back on it. So new taxes have not been, they've not come up with new tax policy. The government has not come up with any new tax policy. The ones they were trying to introduce has been thwarted because there was too much protest over it. That one that I was talking about, for each transfer you do 5%, we go to the Office of National Security Advisor. That one has been dropped. So from the point of the government now is about reforms and reforms, so that the economy we come to life. No, it's just a top to bottom approach. Let's reform it so that when we reform it, let's be more market oriented. That's breaking it down. I don't want to go into too much technical details. The government is liberalizing the economy. The government is moving more towards capitalism, where opening up our market, because the government believes let the market drive the economy, and if market drives the economy, it's going to be a top-bottom approach. There's going to be a trickle-down effect on everybody. That is what the government is saying. So the government is conscious of the market, and the focus of the government now is market. Let us liberalize neoliberal policies. That's what they're doing. So, but the pace is too much. The pace at which the government is doing it is too much. It's just like you are injecting a patient, you are putting like 10 injections at the same time on the patient, which is bad. The term economic call that is shock therapy. Shock therapy, which means you are trying to implement too much reform, liberal reform, neoliberal reform at the same time. Economists call it a shock therapy, and it's not new. It has been done in different parts of the world. It first appeared in Chile in the 70s. It was Chile that they first introduced in Chile, but it was a disaster in Chile because the human cost was the toll on the people was too much. And the leader of Chile at that time, he had to admit it openly that he didn't know that the human cost of this shock therapy would be too much on the people. So they tried it in Bolivia, in Poland, in Russia. Many countries of the world have tried it during the financial crisis in Asia. They tried to implement it. So, but most countries was a disaster because of the human effect, the initial toll on the people, the mystery. It increased the human mystery. It drives inequality. Even at the end of the day, some countries that it worked, it only worked for the poor and for the rich. It didn't really trickle down. Not to not talk about Nigeria, a country that where the corruption is very high, a country that we don't have the right system to deliver things to the people. So even if it works, do we want the system to make sure that the people that we are telling them to suffer and endure, do we have the right system to make sure when the benefit comes, do we have the right system to make sure that the benefit gets to them? Those are the questions we should even be asking ourselves, you know, because many analysts have said the policies of this government is a kick and follow, you know, meaning that you bring a policy. If after you've started implementing the policy, now you begin to now be thinking about the effect of it. Okay. You don't really sit down and look at the cost of it. You don't really look at it holistically. You don't really look at everything that's going to happen, because for every action there must be equal and opposite reaction. So that's the first law of of energy. That's one law of thermodynamics. Therefore, every law there must be equal and opposite reaction. That's the first law of motion, rather. So if you don't understand these things, you'll not be able to look at what your people will suffer. Now, if you know when you want to make any policy, the first thing you should do is that let us look at the advantages and the disadvantages. You should get an A4 paper and you rule it in the middle, and you write advantages and disadvantages. So you list the advantages and you list the disadvantages. Even your whole life, that's when you want to make decisions. That's how it should be. So when you know that the advantages outweighs the disadvantages, you know that, okay, it's a good policy. But when the disadvantages outweighs the advantages, so definitely it's not a policy to go by. We've seen that one lacking in this government. There's not been foresight. There's not been, I think they were coming with the knowledge of that we know these things. The knowledge, the things that we were discussing outside of government, that was the same thing they brought to the table. They don't know that when you are inside the government is another ballgame entirely. You have to consider many things. You have to consult many things. You have to look at many interests. You have to look at, so those things are not there. That is why you see that they will implement policies, and when the policies are being implemented, so now there'll be challenges, and now they will try, because of ego, I believe it's ego, they will now try to be patching it up and patching it up. We can see that a classical example is the issue of fuel subsidy removal. We can see that as of today, we know that the government is subsidizing PMS, but the government is not owning up to it. But it's an open secret, because the landing cost of PMS today, you can check, the landing cost of PMS today in Nigeria is more than 1,000 naira, due to the flotation that followed immediately after after the removal of subsidy. So due to the flotation of the naira, so the cost of PMS shot up, and now we have the landing cost of fuel today at above 1,000 naira. So for it to be selling below 1,000 naira, it means the subsidy is back, but it's through the back door. So if the government have considered all these things, government will not have taken people through all this mystery, and at the end of the day, the thing has collapsed. Understand? We just try to patch it up and pray and hope that Dangote refineries come on stream so that maybe we can be able to get some soft landing. The thing is just that if the Dangote refinery even comes on board, it's not going to lessen the price of PMS. People are getting all these things wrong. Understand? Thinking that maybe if the Dangote refinery comes on board, it's going to, no, it will not reduce. The only thing that can reduce is that the real subsidy that government has introduced through the back door now, it might, it's a conditional statement, might be eliminated. So I think that's why government is just trying to say that let Dangote begin. Let's keep pushing till maybe Dangote comes on stream, and when it comes on board, maybe we're going to see some relief. But it has been, so if the government has made all these calculations before removing this thing, they will not have seen that it's not worth it. Let's just keep paying it, because now the amount we are even paying now is even more than what we are paying there. And not now to talk about the human cost and the mystery and everything, the inflation that has driven up as at last year May. Talking about this time last year, our inflation was just above 20%. Today it's more than 33. I think today is 33.96. Food inflation is 43%. So it has been a lot of challenges. We've seen a lot of unemployment has gone up. Many. There have been a lot of challenges, but just like we say it's still, let's still see how everything is going to pan out. Let's see how everything is going to go. But the challenge is just that, what about the human cost? That's just my own major concern. The human being, a lot of people are falling deep into poverty. People not be able to afford medicine. The cost of medicine have shot up. And government now is saying executive bill, they want to bring up an executive bill to bring down the price of drugs. But what about hospital bills? What about feeding? What about, somebody sent me a picture of yam, 6 tubers of yam she bought for 20-something thousand. 6 tubers a year. Yes, tiny yams, not big ones. 6 tubers, tiny yams, bought for 21,000. So there's a lot of challenges. We just believe that that's why I use the third law of motion that I say for every action there must be equal and opposite reactions. That's the third law of motion by Newton. And if this government have just understood this, they will have be able to make more comprehensive decisions. So, but the government said that we should keep enduring, that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. So let's just keep our fingers crossed.
Hopefully there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Again, some analysts have argued this, even before this present administration, have argued a lot on the level of corruption that is ongoing in Nigeria before the advent of this administration. And when we say that government is doing too much or is doing a lot of reforms, the shock policy and the rest of them, introducing one reform and then another one, before we come out of that one, then another one. What can you say about corruption? Because corruption, the fight against corruption is one major factor that is sponsoring all of these policies. So what can we say?
Let me just say that you can only minimize corruption, you cannot eliminate it. No, it's as old as human. But you as a government, what you must do is that when you implement right policies, if your policies are right and you have the right framework, you have the right institution now, like your institutions are strong. You look at, before you implement any policy, there's what we call localization of policy. Now, you don't just bring policy from somewhere and just bring it and implement it here, because the culture of the people, the system that is available there, and many other factors is going to affect policy. So when you bring in a policy to a country, you look at different factors. The infrastructure you have here, the history of the people, the point they are in development, their developmental journey. Now, you can say that something that is happening in US, you want to bring it down here, it's going to be a lot of problem, because you can compare what we have here with what they have. I'm talking about institutional framework now. And you can't, okay, now, if government say now, okay, every Nigerian want to distribute food for them, yeah, we know we don't have a system to distribute it effectively. We know. Because how many Nigerians have how many houses in Nigeria have correct addresses? How many? How many Nigerians do we have, the government have their data, history, their income, this is how much they earn? How many Nigerians the government have all those data on? So now, government, that's what I'm saying, that the problem is, when we talk about corruption, yes, it's a problem, but even this problem we have is short-sightedness.
You think so?
Yes, I know so. Because if government is very deep in their reasoning, if government is very holistic in their approach, if government is very broad in their horizon, they will have seen that there are a lot of things that need to be put in place before we are putting in place. You know, some people say putting the cart before the horse. Understand? We don't have institutions that can bat these policies. The level that we are in our developmental journey does not support these things. As at 2022, multidimensional poverty in Nigeria, we have more 133 million human beings. That was then was more than 60% of our population in multidimensional poverty. Understand? So now, don't think that kind of economy where people are that much more than 60% are going through multidimensional poverty. We don't expect that kind of economy is also the kind you'll be taking through all these shock policies, all this rapid liberalization. There's nothing wrong with opening up your economy, but it should be gradual. That is why I say I prefer gradualism, consistent liberalization, gradual but consistent liberalization of the economy. It's far better because of our history, because of the strength of our institutions. We don't have institutions. You use institutions to deal with corruption. That's why at times I laugh about saying we want to fight corruption. No, how do you want to fight corruption? You use institutions. In your workplace now, there are systems. It's the system that allows whether you can manipulate it or you can't. Okay, now let me tell you, there is a place there's a place as far back as more than 10 years ago, more than 15 years ago, I used to know that place. It's in this Nigeria. Workers don't sign anything. No. You clock in, you clock out.
And they have been
you want your fingerprint. Yes. So this is not about me begging my boss or begging somebody. And they can bring, at the end of the month, they can bring down the digitally. You yourself will see it by yourself. The number of times you came late, the number of times, you will see it. Nobody manipulates. So now, in that kind of system, it's very difficult. Because the people who owns that place, they've built the right policy, the right solution to be able to check lateness to work. So now you can't compare it with somebody now that is still using Biro and somebody signing and all these things. And he's saying that he wants to implement what those ones are implementing and get the same result. No, because those ones have first built a system. Understand? They've built an institution before now bringing in some policies. So now, that's what I'm saying. So if we have the right institution and we put the right thing in place, naturally it will reduce corruption. Corruption cannot be totally rooted out anywhere in the world, but it can be reduced to the barest minimum. But the way you do it is not you chasing somebody, EFCC and all these things. No. You preventive measure. Just like in medicine, preventive is better than curative medicine. Preventive medicine is better than curative medicine. And all over the world now, they're moving towards preventive medicine. It's also the same thing with corruption we're talking about. You build a system that prevents it. You build a system that checks it, that makes sure it does not take place. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So that one is, so those are all the things that the government did not put into consideration before bringing out all these things. And that is why now you've seen everything now. We have a tinderbox situation at our hands. We have a tinderbox at our hands because the situation is getting messier and messier day by day. We just believe and we hope that something is done.
When you talk about lack of institutions, somebody might be tempted to ask you this question and say, which other institution do you want us to have? When we have the EFCC, we have the ICPC, we have a lot of them. Which other institution do you think we should have? And again, you were talking about the system. Is it, are you making us to believe that It is a case of transporting policies that are not right for our system, economic system in Nigeria.
There are two issues here that you've mentioned, and quickly I want to just address it. EFCC, ICPC, they cure, they don't prevent. It's after corruption has taken place that you now invite EFCC to help you to go after them.
And recover.
So that approach is not the best. It's not that it should not be there, but that approach should, you don't use EFCC and ICPC to fight corruption because it has taken place. Your major focus as a country, as an organization, as a human, is for you to make sure it doesn't take place.
Prevention.
Prevent it. And that is what we're talking about, the internal, in your institutions, the internals, the systems you build in your institutions. Like now, let me give you an example. When I was an undergraduate, to prevent frauds, to prevent examination malpractice, what happens is that a lecturer does not teach all the courses. A particular course in a semester, you can have up to 5 lecturers teaching
taking
it.
A particular course?
Yes, they take different topics under it. Now, the course coordinator might not even be among the lecturers.
What?
Yes. Now, what they will do is they set their exams, and out of maybe maybe 4 lecturers are teaching the particular course, you will now require you to submit five questions from what you've taught. Now, you don't know the course coordinator will pick. Maybe out of the 5 or 4 you set, maybe he's just going to pick two out of it. So you pick two out of it. They set the question. The questions that you set, you provide the answers. So when you provide the answers, you are not even the one to mark it. There are other people that will mark it. So now it's difficult to connive, for students now to connive with lecturers. Now it's difficult for you now to say, okay, I want to go and be sleeping with lecturers. You have to sleep with 4, 5. You have to sleep with
to pass the course.
So it's not that people still don't look for a way to beat the system, that system. But at least it makes it difficult. That's what we're saying. So those are the things we need. We need to bring in more. So talking about bringing in policies, yes, we are bringing in policies that we are not mature to handle.
And you think so?
I know, so it's there. It's obvious. That's why we have all these challenges. That's why now we're talking about compiling social register. We are still giving out contracts to somebody to go and compile social register, and they are frauding the system. That's why somebody say, when disburse money, they didn't get the money. Or the money that should be disbursed for 6 months, they disburse it 1 month, and that's the end. And that is why during COVID lockdown, somebody can still be saying he's feeding children. That are in their parents' house. Somebody is still saying he's feeding the children. Because we don't have the system to get to do all these things that we are doing. We need a system first. So when these policies are coming, okay, this is the policy, but we don't have the system to support it. Do we have the register of SMEs in Nigeria? The proper registers of SMEs in Nigeria? What you have is CAC register, and most of them are dormant. So most of these companies are dormant. So when government say we want to give money to SMEs, it's those that are paper entrepreneurs. Those are just portfolios entrepreneurs. They're the ones that get access. The real people who need this money don't get it. That's why government said we want to release money for mortgage. The real builders, the real realtors don't have access to the money. It's just that just want to register company and they have leg in government who don't have a block anywhere. They don't get all those things because our system, we have not built the right institution yet. Okay, go to some places in even this Abuja, maybe Karimu or Pape. Are there right addresses there?
They should be. All things being able.
They are not addresses. Can you locate somebody there? Can you send a dispatch rider to say, go help me drop somebody somewhere? No, they only tell you, okay, come to the junction, come to beside Suzo Bank. So no, they don't. So we don't have all these things. If we don't have all these things, we don't have business dealing with all these sophisticated policies, all these sophisticated policies. We shouldn't be toying with them because they are highly inflammable. And once the fire, if it catches fire, it's going to be a very, very big challenge. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So let's just leave that at that.
Okay. One policy that a lot of people have referred to as a welcome development policy is that of the reintroduction of a student loan in the educational sector. Where the question to ask is that, how accessible can this loan be, and will it likely go in the way of other government interventions where the beneficiaries will be denied?
The student loan is commendable, but just like the same thing, government is putting the cart before the horse.
How do you mean?
I don't think the Nigerian government work with data. I don't know. I don't think so.
They do. I beg to disagree, because I know that the MBS is doing a lot on data.
There is MBS, but I don't think, I'm saying MBS is an agency of the government. But when government is coming up with policy, do they use these data? There are two different things.
They should.
They should, but I don't think so. I'll give you. I'll tell you.
So?
Yes, I'll tell you seriously. We have in university alone. We have more than 2 million Nigerians in universities.
In government universities.
In universities, both private and the last data that was available, we have more than 2 million
students.
Yes, that was at 20. This data I'm talking about should be around 2014, 2015. In universities only, not colleges of education, not polytechnics, not other institutions, only universities. We have more than 2 million. Now, we are budgeting just 60 billion for this scheme as a take-off scheme. Just 60 billion was the take-off scheme for it. I don't know maybe government is going to be budgeting for it every year, or I don't know how much their 60 billion is going to last. Maybe it's just for a year, or maybe it's just for take-off fund, or maybe it's 3 months or 1 year. Government did not tell us. But 60 billion was allocated to this student loan. And I'm going to assume it's just one fiscal year, the 60 billion. Now, if they said now they want to start with federal government institutions, not only university, but federal government institutions, colleges of education, HND, I saw 1.2 million students in these just federal government colleges of education. Now, let's say with the state of the economy now, more than, let's say, every student in higher institution in Nigeria definitely is more than 2 million. Both HND, others, both polytechnics, colleges of education, all students in higher institutions in Nigeria definitely are more than 2 million. With the state of economy now, I can say that 50% of these students will need this loan. Can that 60 billion, can it be enough to take care of 1 million students? Because now the average school fees in even federal government institutions now is, let's say, 100,000. And government is talking about paying the school fees and giving 20,000 stipends to this student every month. So definitely what the budget, it doesn't even fit into it. That's why I say I don't think they are working with data.
No, but there's a place to start from.
Okay, if you're saying that, that's why I say they should call it a scholarship, not a student loan. Student loan means everybody that needs it will get it. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Okay. Student loan means everybody that needs it. Understand? Everybody that needs it will get it. But when you talk about scholarship, it means people will be qualified for it. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think they are working with data. But let's start from somewhere, just like you said. But let's just start from somewhere, just like you said, and let's see how far it goes.
All right. Time will not permit us now, because we want to join on a program that is going to be transmitted live from the Minister's office, and we'll continue in the program maybe the next time. Thank you for joining us on today's edition of the program. And Mr. Abraham, well, thank you for coming.
No, it's always my pleasure to be here.